Rayquaza is back in Pokemon Go, and this time you can get the shiny form. Black Rayquaza. What is cooler than that? Maybe Black Charizard, but Black Ray, a little bit cooler, in my personal opinion. So you want to know how to best beat this Pokemon down? Maybe achieve the duo. Well then check this out. Here we have a graph of the best Rayquaza counters. At level 40, unless stated otherwise, against a tier 5 Rayquaza raid, all movesets of Rayquaza averaged, no dodging, and best friendship. Now the other points featured on this graph are either going to be a breakpoint, but if they have an asterisk, the little star guy next to them, that means it's a bulk point. A bulk point is your ability to survive a certain amount of fast moves and charge moves on average, and most of these are based off of Dragon Tail or Air Slash with Outrage, which is much more easier to measure the bulk point on. So changes from this graph compared to the last one is we now have Glaceon added to the mix, and we have Charm Gardevoir and Charm Togekiss. Now there's little dark clouds next to them, that's cloudy weather. See these rock type Pokemon here? That's partly cloudy weather. And then Mewtwo, Mew, and Porygon Z, they got a little ice guy next to them, so you know that they're using their ice type movesets. And that covers the basics. Now if you're sitting at home and you're wondering, Brian Swag, how do I use this graph to figure out how to do the duo? Well, the DPS to duo a tier 4 or a tier 5 raid boss is 25 each. The collective DPS you need is 50. So to do the trio, divide 50 by 3. I'm not working in fractions right now here. So the duo DPS ends up being 25 to 28. So anything in this brick here might not make it depending on your optimization level, but everything above the 30 line definitely viable for the duo. Just be aware that if Rayquaza has a moveset that is particularly effective against your Pokemon, it could hurt your ability to do the duo. Thing that works against it, the reason why it isn't a perfect 25, is because if you have to re-lobby, well then that lowers your average DPS, because as you're re-lobbying, that's a period of time that you're doing 0 damage, which definitely hurts pretty hard. Which is why I have these re-lobby TDO lines. Yeah, so the x-axis here is TDO, total damage output, the average damage your Pokemon will deal before they faint, and because you and your allies need to make 100% TDO, 100% damage to beat the raid boss, well then it's measurable to get a rough idea of what the double relobby avoid TDO is and the triple relobby avoid TDO is, because it's like tankiness. Now, will using Pokemon beyond the double relobby avoid TDO ensure that you never have to relobby twice? Well, it all depends on how much damage your allies are putting out, and then also working in how much damage you have to put out. So this is just a rough estimate to give you a working idea of how you're going to qualify for this. And for those of you at home that really aren't too interested in the duo, yeah, the more up and to the right your Pokemon are, well then the more awesome they're going to be at beating Rayquaza. And yeah, overall, who beats Rayquaza the best? Obviously Mamoswine, the champion, the master. On Twitter earlier, I incorrectly stated that Glaceon has slightly better DPS than Mamoswine. It's actually slightly better DPS than the level 37.5 Mamoswine when at level 40. The reason why I had this slight error is because in Google Sheets, they actually cut off this dot, and then for whatever reason, the top 3 dots don't have a label on them, so I didn't notice that there was 37 to 37.5, so that's where that little miscommunication came in on my part. Glaceon is still definitely swag, and the Glaceon that I'm using here is the Frost Breath Glaceon. I measured out the Ice Shard variants, and while there were some specific breakpoints where it was slightly better than Frost Breath consistently was better for this raid, so I decided to just leave this in and keep it less confusing, aside from like this small window where Ice Shard is maybe ever so slightly better. So Glaceon, definitely pimpin'. I'd say the second best option for this raid overall. And then following that, Ice Beam Mewtwo or Weavile, take your pick your poison, they're both really great. Now, a cool thing to note, you guys might be thinking, Rampardos is a rock type Pokemon, and he's like the best rock type attacker in the game, this guy's a flying type, we're gonna kick his butt. Well, this is a partly cloudy Rampardos, and as you can tell, definitely not even meeting the level of a underleveled Weavile, let alone a underleveled Mamoswine. So, weather boosted Rampardos, not a bad option, Jinx, as good. So, yeah, sorry Rampardos, not that hype. And then Tyranitar, Rhyperior, if they're in the partly cloudy weather, not that hype either. And then Togekiss and Gardevoir. Even though Charm is a really big boost for them compared to where they were in the past, definitely not on the level in this particular battle as Mamoswine, Glaceon, and the other Ice-type attackers are. Even though you have the immunity to your resistance some of the times, and you're dealing stab super effective damage, these guys have doubly as super effective damage because you got Dragon, weak to Ice, and Flying, weak to Ice. So even though this raid is kind of made for them, not quite there. Important thing to note with these guys, though, is if you are up against the Outrage Rayquaza, they are particularly tanky options, and it could be worthwhile to put them at the end of your team as kind of like an anchor to try to avoid relobbying. So their DPS is definitely duo worthy, not bad. Maybe a little bit too close for comfort. This is also, the cloudy weather there, so maybe risking it without the cloudy weather. But yeah, not bad. Just not Mamoswine. Just look at this face of anger, and this face of sheer confidence and power, right? And then you look at Gardevoir, and Gardevoir's like, I'm gonna do it, I don't know. And Togekiss is like, I ate glue today. Like, oh, you think these guys are gonna be as tough as Mamoswine and Glaceon? Maybe in some raids, not this one. So now you might be thinking, Ryan Swag, if I get the perfect lucky hundo shiny Rayquaza, should I max it out or not? Gen 5 is a comin'. Is there anything there to threaten Rayquaza? At this point in time, I'd have to say the main threat Rayquaza has is Niantic releasing a new OP Dragon-type attack and giving it to something that's already pretty good, like Garchomp, for instance, or maybe the Gen 5 Haxorus, or the Hydreigon. But at this moment, I think Rayquaza is pretty safe. There is Kyurem Black and Kyurem White, which are like these Omega Digimon fusion Pokemon from Gen 5, but I'm pretty confident it's going to be a long time until we see them. And given the exclusivity and questionable lore of them in the main series games, I don't know if they're going to be some mythic event in the deep future, or maybe they might just pull a Gen 3 on us and release them right away. But overall, I'd say Rayquaza is pretty comfortable where it is. In fact, Kyurem Black and Kyurem White are so stupidly powerful, I'm pretty sure Niantic's going to pull something to kind of put a limiter on their insano power. Or I could be wrong, and they might make it insane. So spend your Stardust frugally. Only power up a Rayquaza, in my opinion, if you intend to use it on something right away. Until then, you got Stardust you can save, man. But to be 100% real with you, if I got a Black Rayquaza and had good IVs, or I luckied it, I'd probably max it out. It's a really good attacker, and it looks so freaking cool anyways. So, future, I'm not too concerned. We got Mega Ray in the deep future, so maybe we don't have to worry about nothing then, right? As far as the PvP side of things go, Rayquaza is not it. Yeah, the only league that'd possibly have a chance in is the Master League, and it's got Dragon Tail and Outrage, which is just way too slow compared to other Dragon-type Pokemon. So, Rayquaza might want to take a pass on it for PvP. As far as battling Team Rocket members, though, Rayquaza isn't all that shabby, so not the worst thing to whip out against Team Rocket if you got nothing else to use. But using something like Dialga, much better. And there you have it. Black Rayquaza, back to protect the Earth from devastation. Team Rocket, watch out on our side. If you got any questions on this content, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this content, you want to see more like it, maybe you want to counter whatever's coming in the future, well then subscribe to SwagTips.